record button. Give a couple more minutes, see if some more people jump on. Oh, there's Nick is on. Would I get Inga?
P.
Okay, we have one on. Hi, Nick. Good to see you. Saw you for a second there. I'm just going to go ahead, Nick, and unmute you, if that's all right. If you want to mute yourself, go ahead. But if you have questions at some point, just let us know. So I want to say hi, P. Everybody, good morning. It's good to see everyone back here again. Good to have with our Eminent speaker session. So welcome, my judges, and Huchnigink. Really happy that you were able to jump on with us today. This is great. We still do this every Thursday. And it's been pretty valuable. The people that have jumped on with us have really liked it so far. And hey, Josh.
Hello.
And people have really liked it so far, but also people are watching the videos. We're recording these and we're posting them up. And I've gotten some comments on people watching these after the fact. They really like it. So once again, really glad be able to jump on and join us. Josh, I unmuted you. So just so you know. So if you do have questions, just let us know. Nick muted himself back again. Barbara's on there. So again, if you guys have questions, please let us know. So for our eminent speakers, this is our time when we ask questions of you guys, especially related to the modules that we're doing. And so this week we did being able to ask somebody, how are you doing? And that's a part of the curriculum. And we know when we ask someone, how are you doing, Janiske Raje, you have to take into account their position. Janiske Raje, Janiske Shanank, or Janiske Shalank or Shank. And so that's been a big part of what people were working on this week. So if there's questions again from the instructors, please let us know. The only word that we went into primarily instruction was I'm doing well. So we would say Hipinangshana or Hipianjade. But I think some of the challenges have added in some extra words to talk about how you're doing. And we might have some questions related to that as well. But I wanted to start it off and ask, the lessons focused on asking one person, how are you doing? But I just want to make sure I'm okay with this. If there's more than one person, if there's two people, let's say there's three of you eminent speakers that are sitting there. If I wanted to ask, how are you all doing? Would that be Janiske Hashanangui? That sounds all right. Okay. And I think if everyone was standing, Janiske Hadajawi. Okay. Now my one question with plurals that I had is, what do you do if there's a group of people and some of them are standing and some of them are sitting down? Let's say there's two people, one of them is standing and one of them is sitting down. What would you say to ask them, how are you guys doing?
Janiske Hadajawi.
Janiske Hadajawi. So that would cover the whole thing. It doesn't matter what position they're in.
I have to throw another one in there. Janiske Hanishawi.
Okay.
Nihe. How have you guys been?
How have you been?
That doesn't recognize standing or sitting. Just Janiske Hanishawi.
Okay. And if that was just one person, would you say Janiske Ranishe?
Yeah. Janiske.
How have you been?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I saw Jaji Elliott. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think if there was a mixture of positions like you're talking about, I would think it would be okay to use either position.
Yeah, his game.
Okay. So either Janiske Harajawi or Janiske Hashanangui. How are you guys doing? And doesn't Ben just use either one?
Yeah,
That's what I would say. Yeah.
yeah, they're good. If you're addressing them all, it's your eye contact that's going to determine who you're talking to. If there's three of them there.
Okay. And then I had a question that came in on Messenger about asking people how you're doing. And it made sense. They said, what if I'm talking to somebody on the phone and I want to ask them how they're doing? Do I need to ask them if they're standing or sitting down before I do that? They were saying that jokingly, but I wasn't sure. I said, you could probably just say John Iskerache, and that would make sense. But I wanted to ask, is there a default or does it matter? Is it just kind of preference, whatever you're thinking at that time, speaker wise?
There is no preference. If you know the individual, if they're lying around on the couch all the time, that's how you're going to ask them. So yeah, you can't be wrong on a phone.
Okay.
If you don't know, you don't have to use that positional. You can just use the past tense.
Okay.
Then you omit that positional. You don't have to worry about if they're sitting, standing, or laying down.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes things easier, much easier.
Yeah, they go hard.
Oh, Pierre again.
I like that one. Someone else asked, when you're learning Spanish, I guess one of the really common phrases was, I'm doing okay, is like así así. Like if you ask someone how they're doing, así así. And someone, because we're learning like pinangshana, I'm doing well. And I said, is there a way to say, okay? And I thought you could just say piniske, but I don't know if there's another expression or another way in Ho-Chunk saying things are, things are okay, things are all right.
A question like that on the phone. P ha'o hanihawi. P ha'o hanihawi. We have been doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's a general kind of answer for, well, we've been doing fine. So that covers everything in the past. We've been doing good.
Just for the guests here that are joining us, if you guys look at the group chat, if you guys want to look at that, I'm writing this out. What are they talking about? So if you guys wanted to write it down, just to have, it's all in the group chat. I don't know how long it stays there, but
So you're not asking us how we are?
I was just trying to figure out how to write back. I've been good. Thank you, Holke. That was very thoughtful. So.
Yeah, Jago, hakoge jana wiagi paki, janiske, tanishe. Not sorry, go ship, pin, ana.
Mm-hmm.
One word answer, pin.
Yeah.
And that says it all. And I'm going to worry if they say, Jenny. Then we got issues.
Yeah. That would be, I'm not doing so good. Or it hasn't been so good. Okay. I guess I'll ask if the instructors, if you guys have some questions for the eminent speakers.
Somebody just asked, Barbara Two Bears just asked, can I ask why the questions of how someone is doing changes on what position someone is in?
Oh, so why would you say Janiske Raje, Janiske Shanunk, and Janiske Shawunk? I think that would be the question. I mean, I can give, I throw that to the eminent speakers. I can give a grammatical, I mean, our best guess as to what an explanation is or the model is. But I guess it's a cool quirk. I don't want to call it a quirk. It's a part of Ho-Chunk language that you specify different things based on their position spatially, and that indicates like the present tense, what's happening right now. So if I'm talking about myself, I'm sitting right now, and if I'm saying I'm doing good right now, hinangshana, versus standing. And so it indicates like the present tense, I guess, is probably the best corollary I can give to that. Or indicates kind of a state of being. And it's something really cool that Ho-Chunk as a language does. They also even do that with objects, like you talk about objects in terms of their positions as well. I get really carried, I'm really holding myself, I get really carried away with grammatical explanations. You see everybody nodding and laughing, so I'm really trying to rein myself back in. So if one of the other teachers wants to give a better English explanation of what I'm trying to say, because like I said, I tend to overcomplicate things. But the gist is, if when you're talking about something in the present tense or it's ongoing, you specify the position that it's in. There's not a lot of languages in the world that do that.
And then she's saying, does this apply for most or every situation? I don't really have another example like the one you mentioned about objects.
It has to do with in the present tense. In the present tense, you always have to use what is a positional or name the position that the object or the person is in. So the position, you know, is if someone is standing, someone is sitting, and then if there's horizontal movement or motion, if somebody is moving, walking, you know, as you're walking, that's the third position. And so whenever you're speaking in the present tense, the ending is going to require that denotion. You have to denote what the position the object or the person is in. So that's how, I guess what we call them positionals. There isn't another word, I guess, that I've ever known for them. But they are required in the present tense. So they won't ever go away. We're always going to hear them. And if we're going to speak the language, then we have to learn how to use them.
There's other examples where we would use positionals, not just for how somebody was doing, but for another example is what somebody is doing. What are they doing at this particular time? That's another time where you would use a positional. What is he doing? You'd use a positional at that time. Is he sitting there or is he standing there? Or even lying or moving, I guess. Okay, she's asking, how would I use a positional to describe a bull on a table? Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, I actually just went to go get a prop. I don't have a table that I can set up really quickly. But if I were to describe this pen, let's pretend it's standing on a table right now. And if I wanted to say what color this pen is, I could say "wi wagach de cho wa unjin." Eminent speakers, please feel free to correct me if I'm saying something wrong. But "wi wagach de cho wa unjin." So I'm just saying that this pen is blue. All right, and I'm talking about it, the state of it. It's clearly in the present tense. But if it was lying on the table and I was pointing to it, I would say "wi wagach de cho wa ankshana." "Wi wagach de cho wa ankshana." means the same thing. This pen is blue, but you can see it's aligned horizontally at this point. So that's why you would use the other positional. And like Horagerenga and Hoki were saying, you use that in basically anything that's in the present tense, and you use that with objects quite a bit. Anything, really, you're making present tense statements. Did that help? Josh is grimacing, so.
Oh. What I tell my students, because sometimes my students will ask, why? Why is Ho-Chunk language like that? I tell my students, okay, well, think of it this way. When you're learning the English language, the word for sit is not just sit. You've got all other ways of the sit. You got sit, sat, sitting, sits. So that's what I kind of explain to them, because they think Ho-Chunk is kind of too complicated. But then I think, well, when you were going to school, learning the English language and learning how to read, it was the same thing too, because, well, he would, like Huachate was just saying about the pen, is line, okay? There's even different ways in English language, just how you say lie. So when I kind of explain to my students, like, okay, it was the same thing when you learned English too. There were different forms of verbs. And so they kind of like, oh, okay, never thought of it that way.
I have a question actually now that goes back for our speakers. I mean, you don't have to learn you didn't learn the language by learning all the grammatical explanations like that. You heard it, you spoke it, it was your daily life growing up. Did you ever think about things like that, like the positionals, and think about the language in terms of that? I mean, but I know it just came natural to you guys from the way you were spoken to about it, but was there ever an emphasis made on no, you would say nunk like a ball, or was it ever even discussed, or no? I guess I would ask the speakers.
I have a very quick response to that. I never ever heard of such a thing when I was young. I never even imagined that there was anything like that to that. I just recently found that out, that there was grammar involved, but it isn't anything that we were ever taught or we learned. We just learned how to speak just from hearing it on a daily basis. And now that I hear some grammar lessons that you and other people give to our apprentices, it all fits, it all comes together, and it's all right, and it's all proper. And I was amazed that, when you give grammar lessons, that it fits into what we learned way back when. But we never ever knew that. Apparently we knew all of those grammar rules and whatever it is, the verb conjugations. We learned them, but we didn't know that's what they were. We didn't know we were conjugating verbs. And nobody ever gave us a lesson on that. But
Right.
the way we're teaching our young ones now, it all fits together. It's just that as speakers, as older speakers, we just never got those kinds of lessons. We just learned how to speak.
Yeah, I never use the word never, but I can. Never. We never were taught any kind of rules. They're just our old folks, older folks, relatives, other old chunks, other villages, they were talking that way. And no one was arguing, oh, no, that's standing up there. You can't see that. I haven't ever heard anything like that. So, right or wrong, that's the way we spoke, that's what we picked up. I guess the majority of what we heard. So that was nice. That's being a first language speaker, like any culture. So it's automatic. But to learn a new language, it ain't easy. I can use the word ain't. I don't speak English either. So. Yeah, it's tough. It's not easy, but I like the way the grammatical structure is being pointed out constantly. I've learned it now because I've been using it, teaching it. But it's English. Macade words for the grammar.
Mhm.
I don't know when I heard the word verb. Probably in junior high. I don't know. And I didn't care. So
I guess I would agree with what always Sock was saying, and both always Sock and watch him actually, because a lot of times people would ask me something regarding like conjugating. I really had a hard time with it because I tell them that in my younger days, nothing was written. And then that never told me first person, second person, third person. That wasn't taught that way. Never. Farthest thing from our mind was hearing it that way. But we just heard it and learned it. A lot of times we made a mistake in speaking something, parents or somebody would say, "Oh, that's not the way to say it." And then they correct us. But like they're saying, it was, we heard it, we learned it, and assumed, you might say, we assumed that's the correct way to say it. And like I was saying, if we made a mistake, somebody would correct us. So this verb business and stuff, nothing like that was ever kind of explained that this word is a verb or this is a noun, adverb. Those things was never taught to them. So one time I was saying that to somebody, that was talking about, especially in that conjugating. I said, that's a white man thinking. That's what I was saying. It was never that way when we learned our first language.
Yeah. One thing I like with my linguistics background, I like to point out to people is when you hear the word grammar and you hear the word rules, a lot of people start to mistake that and say, well, that's the way a language is. Like, that's how it is. And I want to make sure people understand that's not what grammar is. Like, the language that our eminent speakers, our first speakers, that's the pure language. That's the true language. The way they learn, that's the ideal way to learn. And what they say, when they say something is correct or incorrect, that's the gospel. What grammar and like when we put these, what they call rules or structure, that's just a model. That's just what people look at a language and they try to build a model of how it works, just like you do in any other kind of scientific field. And a lot of times that model is going to be incomplete. A lot of times that model is we don't understand where it goes. And a lot of times that model is going to be wrong. So if you hear a speaker say something that goes against a grammar rule that you learned, the speaker is not wrong, your model is wrong. And that means you have to change your model. So that's just one thing people say grammar rules and stuff like that. And I kind of cringe when I hear that sometimes, because like, just remember that these things that we put together, yeah, they fit as closely as we can get them, but it's just a model. And as the language changes over time, the model has to change. And language is dynamic and fluid, and you're never going to be able to capture all the nuances. So like I said, the pure language is there with our eminent speakers. It's in their minds and in their heads and how they speak. And that's what we just try to listen to them as much as we can and capture as much as we can. All right, so I'm jumping on my linguistic soapbox again, so when I get back off. Let's see if there are any other questions that may be out there. From any of our people that are on, our participants, or as well as our fellow instructors. I'm not seeing any. Oh, here we go. Barbara Two Bears to everyone. Does that mean that the language has been changing through the years? I'm gonna actually give that to our eminent speakers. If you guys, there's a question, has the language been changing through the years? And if you feel it has, or if you've seen it change, maybe talk about that a little bit.
I don't think it has been changing. But I think with the recent events as far as the nation promoting the preservation of the language, we have had to come up with different ways to teach the language and preserve the language. And we have had to come up with new words for, for the new gadgets and that we use nowadays. So we've had to come up with new words and maybe even some new verbs, I guess, depending on what we're doing. But that's the only changes that I have noticed, and those are more recent. But as far as in the past years, I don't think the language ever changed as far as that goes. I really don't know how it can change other than having to come up with new words for the new things that are being invented or developed.
Well, it's going to change, sometimes drastically. In writing the language and using it and teaching it the way we're doing it today, it's very noticeable, some of the changes, such as Heineping and Haihaping and Haheping. We've never had those. If you think way back in our villages, in the Chiporoques, if we were gathered in a village for the winter, people coming out of those Chiporoques in the mornings, they didn't say Heineping. Or in the afternoon say Haihaping. They recognized each other with either just a nod or a hand motion. If they had conversation, even our old chokas went through this time period. They simply acknowledged the weather. Mampihi gaja. Hey, escape. Hamping gaja. So it's suggestive, and that's how they began their conversations with each other. Today, it's totally different. You're kind of forced to say good morning. I'm even beginning to say that to my cat. So that's how we change. But I don't say it in Ho-Chunk. But that's how our language is changing. Those are just three terms that I know that we developed along the way. I was born in the 40s, so since then, this Heineping didn't exist, but it does now. And now I hear a little bit of Haihaping and Haheping. Well, those are literal translations from the English language. So I suppose we'll change some other terms from other languages also, whether Russian or Iranian or Dutch, doesn't matter. We're gonna get parts of that changed.
Uh-oh.
Hey, go Kita.
We was asking eminent speakers that question. Like my brothers are saying, in my opinion, it hasn't changed anything. But as I was saying earlier, this Maika de Wewe comes in there, all for the benefit of the teachers that are teaching in the classroom. I've seen that when my girls were teaching here at the Toma High School. So in that sense, in a classroom, you could say that it changed for the benefit of the learning students. Not necessarily don't have to be whole chunks that were in that class. They had some Maikatas and lazy poro and different ones that was in the classroom. But in the end result, you might say, you heard it, you understood what they were saying. I don't think it changed, but in the end result, what they were trying to teach them, it was evident that that tool that they used was working for them. Where they, like I was saying earlier, where they taught the kind of a first, second, third person and all this kind of stuff, like it worked for them. The students understood that. But in that teaching there, but the end result was the whole chunk language, the way it was supposed to be spoken. 你好，因为我记得
Yeah, it's a good answer. We had another question coming in from Nick that asked, how has slang influenced the language? And I'm not sure if he means English slang or if there's actual Ho-Chunk, what you would refer to as slang within the language. I'll throw out the example. I know my Jajis talk about their Degas, and that they had phrases they used when they were playing cards or checkers, and they said sometimes they think that might have just even been them, like things they say between themselves and their family. I don't know if you would classify that as slang, but so the question is, how has slang influenced the language? And is there something you would categorize as kind of slangy terms in Ho-Chunk?
There's a lot of slang out there that came up along the way. Yeah, primarily my Degas. On the male side, I guess you hear a lot of that. I went to baseball games, etc., where they were playing, just to hear, like you said, around the house when they had friends over. So there's a lot of it out there, and it just became kind of natural. We didn't know the difference. I didn't know the difference. That's from English, just one term alone in baseball. If you had a 1-0, 1-0 game, they skunked them. So that crossed over into meaning 0 to Gumushke. They skunked that other team. The term went to Ho-Chunk, Gumushke. So a lot of that happened. Still, we still hold that. A lot of terms. There's a lot that I could throw out there, but I'll be sitting here all day.
Yeah, there was a lot of slang terms that were used, but for the most part, that's all they were considered was slang. They never really became well, I guess what you would call legitimate words in the Ho-Chunk language. Maybe a few of them did, I don't know. But for the most part, Ho-Chunk slang words were just made up on a spur of the moment by certain people that like to do that. But they didn't, like I say, they didn't really become a permanent part of the language as far as that goes. Maybe a few of them did, but not very many.
One recently was Moskoke. Moskoke Gioine. They canned him. They fired him. So that's there too. Maybe I should say Moskoke Gioine. They made me a can, or they fired me. So that's out there. Those are slang words that kind of stuck. And again, a lot of these were coined by the Madegas. They were pretty good at that. They joked a lot.
But again, they're slang, and they're not. You're not going to find them in our lexicon, I guess is what I'm saying.
I don't know. Ask the gang, them in there.
I think slang had its place. It wasn't used every day, everyday conversations. It had its place.
Yeah, there are a lot of.
For instance, like my brother saying, talking about the English Cup. Somebody was struck out. Could they get to it? They would say.
Yep.
They would understand what he's talking about because that was there. It belonged at that baseball game. That's why I'd say that slang had its place.
Yeah, they're going to do that. They fanned him out this time.
Yeah.
That fan meaning the bat was swinging at least 3 times. He do, like a fan.
Or either they say wipe singe it, whip
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
So I'll ask if there are any other questions at this time. I haven't seen any more pop up. Or from the instructors. Well, if not, again, feel free to reach out, participants at any time if you have questions for us or for the speakers. I want to say, week, or the Majajis are all here that came on today to help us out and answer some questions. As usual, they're providing a lot of language instruction. They don't realize it, but they are, but they're also giving a lot of deeper knowledge, things again, below the surface and underneath the words and the phrases. That's really, really important to get a fuller appreciation for that. So once again, we're really blessed to have our speakers that we have and to have to be able to interact with them the way that we are. So this was good. This was one of our longer Eminent speaker sessions. So I really appreciate that. So if there are no other questions at this time, I'm seeing any, I'm talking slowly. You guys know I'll fill the time if I have it. So, but if not, all right. Well, I want to say thank you once again to everybody. Please remember tomorrow we're going to have our 2 Zoom sessions at 10 a.m. and at 2 p.m. to do. That's going to be just practicing with the phrases and the language that we did during the module this week. You're all welcome to join us, either for one or both of them would be great. So that's it. Jagum Kita. Chiwida hai pin wainigi na pui. Chige hani chak chawi.
Cool.
Howie.
You know,